Dictionaries are another data structure in Python. The key thing you need to understand with any data structure is how to add to it, how to delete something from it, how to change something that's in it, and how to read items that are in it. Now, if you understand those 4 things with any data structure, that's all the core things you need to know. So anything I show you above and beyond that in this video, feel free to ignore for now, but at least you know where it is for reference later. So I'll go over the core things first. At this point, you should have done lists. Now, lists are very, very simple to use, and they're very nice data structures which are really popular. And the big difference between a list and a dictionary is that a dictionary stores data based on what we call a key. So they store them in key and value pairs. So these on the right hand side are the values, and these on the left here are the keys that you need to use to get those values back. So if I ever call brand, it's going to return Ford. If I call model, it's going to return Mustang, etc, etc. So in a list, if you remember, things were referenced. You would never call a list, but just bear with me. So if I had items in here, so like A, B, and C. So here you would have referenced these by this is at position 0, this is at position 1, and this is at position 2. So it works really well for lots of reasons. As we do activities going forward, you'll see for me where I sometimes choose to use a dictionary and where I choose to do a list. You don't have to always agree with me. Some people really like dictionaries and vice versa, but you'll see there's a key difference. And for me, it depends on the type of data I'm storing, which one I prefer to use. So if we go through the core elements of this, one thing to understand, just like a list, I could have drawn this or written it all on one line like that and had the end bracket right at the end. I've chosen to do it like this purely because I think it reads nicely. Okay, so I'm saying my dictionary is called car, and I've noticed the squiggly brackets because for a list we use square brackets, and the normal brackets as we call them, or the curly brackets, they're used for a tuple, which I'll come on to in the next video. So these squiggly brackets refer to a dictionary, and then all you do is you come up with whatever your key is and store it as a string, and then you have your colon, then you have your value, and then if there's going to be subsequent values and keys after that, you put a comma and do the next one. And when you get to the very end, you don't need the final comma anymore, so the comma separates the values and keys. So that's how you do a dictionary. So the key things to go through, I think, are how to output from it. So let's show you. If I just print the whole thing, when I run it, it's going to print the entire dictionary, which is very rarely actually useful personally, but you often want to print a single item. So for example, I might want to print out what is the brand. So therefore I want it to print out Ford, but I need to reference brand. So there's 2 ways of doing that. I can index. So just like you would have done with a position in a list, if I write brand and run it, it prints out Ford. So it's accessed the brand within my dictionary because that is the key and that is the value. The other way you could do it is I could use the .get method. So if I do .get and then normal brackets, anything I put in here, it will go and find the value that relates to it. So the output is going to be the same. So let me change this to model just so you can see it change. When I press run, you can see it now says Mustang. So they're the 2 ways to get individual items. We'll go through the larger items in a little while, so getting everything. Other things you might want to do is either add or edit something that's in the dictionary. So there's 2 main ways of doing this. So I could use indexing again. So I could say, if I leave here and I'll just do print car so we can see the entire list. So if I run that now, you can see it's just got brand, model and year. So if I want to add something new, so I could do car at position. I'm going to make up a new position. So I'll do color and I'm going to say that is equal to red. When I run it, That's actually added it to my dictionary. Because it didn't exist, it's added it in. So that's one way of doing it. The other way you could do is you could do .update. So if I do .update, and then I need normal brackets, and within the normal brackets, I would do squiggly brackets. And then you just add a new item. So the same way I added when I originally made my dictionary. So I could do color as a string, come out of the string, do a colon, and then do my value. So when I run it, you can see it's in there, look. So I'll change this color again, just to make it a bit more obvious. So there are two ways to add. So we've looked at how to get items from a dictionary, how to add items to a dictionary. You obviously might want to delete an item. So I could do del car, and I could choose model, for example. So when I run it, I've now only got, because when I first run it, it creates it, look, with these three items. I'm then deleting the model Mustang. Then when I print out the entire list, you can see it now only has brand, Ford, and year 1964. So you might want to delete. We've done adding to. You can get rid of the entire list. So I could do car.clear. And that gets rid of the entire list. And if you want to change something in the list, again, either use update or indexing. And I could do car dot. I'll do square brackets actually. I'll do indexing actually. So we could do car and then do year equals 1989. Then when I run it, you can see I've changed the year. So they're the main things you might need to do with a dictionary. The other thing I want to go through is just, you would typically use these in a loop, but I'll show you them as a print statement first actually. So if I print car, and I've got three main options if I do a dot. I've got values, open and close brackets, and then when I run it, you can see it's printing out just the values from my dictionary. So I've got Ford, Mustang, and 1964. I could have, instead of values, I've got the option of keys. And that tells me which are my keys, so brand, model, and year. And I've also got items. And that shows me all of them, but it returns them, notice, in these normal brackets, which are a tuple, which we've not done tuples or tuples yet. We'll come on to those next, but it's very similar to lists, so it's nothing to worry about. Now, you would mainly use these three things here, and please skip this bit if you feel a little bit lost. I've gone over the most important items, but you would usually use these in a for loop. So you might do something like for I in and do car dot values. And then I might do print I. Now, if I do this, I'm going to print out each value from my list. So it's a Ford Mustang 1964. So it's ignored the keys and it's just printed out every value. I've not needed to know the key. This is where it's sometimes useful. So I don't know the key. I'm not accessing this data from the key. I'm just going through and printing out every value that exists in my dictionary. I could do the same with keys. And I could also do the same with items. Now the difference is with items, on each return, it's returning a tuple. So it's basically returning another data structure. So if I obviously keep it as print I, that's going to print the entire data structure. So if I call this DS, so data structure, just to make it a bit clearer. So for the data structure in card items, when this first runs, the first data structure it returns is Brandon Ford, which is put in a tuple. If I wanted to print out just one side, I could use the square brackets again. So we know this is at position 0 and this is at position 1. So if I do this, that means it's going to print out Ford because that's at position 1 of this tuple. Then on the next loop, it's going to print out Mustang. And next loop is going to print out 1964. When I run it, you can see this is doing exactly the same as what car.values did, but it's just showing you, reminding you about indexing. And sometimes you might want a loop that can access both. So items is better than keys or values. If you sometimes want the key and sometimes want the value, you have both returned in a tuple. So that's dictionaries. Remember, the main things are the adding to, removing, changing and deleting. If you feel confident with that, that's more than good enough to move on. But like I say, you know about the looping through and things for reference later.